Hello, and welcome, or welcome back. It has been entirely too long since I have made something spooky, creepy, or otherwise deserving of being in an X-File. So let's remedy that by making a replica model of everyone's favorite sentient eyeball, T. Ocellus, from the newest addition to the Alien franchise, Alien Earth. Let's go. So this cute little homicidal maniac is introduced to us in the Alien Earth show as the Eye, or Species 64. Noah Hawley also refers to it as the Eye Midge, but its full government name is Trypanohentia ocellus, or for short, T. ocellus. And essentially, this little guy is a parasitic life form that will grab onto a host, dislodge its eyeball, and make himself cozy inside their head. He will then overtake the neurotransmitters and control the host. Yeah, a little rude. But we're first introduced to him on the Maginot, which is a Weyland-Yutani ship, and he was collected during this crew's 65-year mission. His body consists of a singular large eye with several irises and pupils, and 7 appendages, which I found out through rigorous research. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He also has these 2 little skinnier tentacles at his center that he uses to kind of propel himself through the air and grab onto things. Unfortunately, due to the misadventures of Chibuzo, the science officer in charge of watching these specimens, our little guy gets out and he wreaks havoc upon the Maginot. But anyway, back to the build. The first thing we'll do is take a ball of aluminum foil. We will get a blob of clay, and I will cover the foil with the blob. Once the blob and foil have been joined in holy craftamony, I will smooth it out, grab 7 long snaky-like appendages, and attach them to the body, and then hopefully I'll have something that looks like this. At that point, I will create a stasis chamber out of various trash and crap from around my house. I will put him in it, and at the end of this project, with no small amount of luck, we will have a murderous little guy. Now I know what you're thinking. That was a really cool montage. How does she have her process so fine-tuned? It didn't look like she had any issues there whatsoever, and like everything was going according to plan. Yeah, well, empires fall. Just ask the Ottomans. It pretty much disintegrated completely. I think my most critical error was using aluminum foil as a base for the tentacles. It was just a little bit too heavy for them, and the aluminum foil was far too flimsy to continuously be manipulated. I think if I would have used armature wire, it would have been a different story. But I was trying to be cheap, and I didn't do that. So yeah, I started over. Here's what that looked like. After the resculpt, it was time to smooth everything out. So there are a couple different things you can use to soften or smooth out your clay, and one of them is isopropyl alcohol, but I feel like if you use too much, it makes the clay really brittle, and that happened to me a few times where I had pieces that would start to just break off because I used too much, but it does work. Something else you can use is baby oil. Now this stuff is okay, but I heard that fresh squeezed is best. If you don't have a baby to squeeze, store-bought is fine, according to Ina Garten. Or was it the Goblin King? So here the base is already par-baked, and I'm using my heat gun to force the eyeballs into submission. This ensures they don't become deformed when I remove them to be baked separately. Now, why did I choose to bake them separately? Well, because they're teeny tiny and difficult to paint. So in my opinion, they're just a lot easier to paint whenever they're not attached to the head. Once I selected my colors, it was time for a quick coat of acrylic gesso, which makes everything super ugly and reveals every flaw in my sculpting, but it does help that paint go on a lot better. Moving on to phase 2, our little ocular freak needs a habitat. So I am attempting to create a stasis chamber out of mostly garbage, which I am in fact known for amongst the people who know me, mostly myself. Anyways, this is a little bit of the aftermath of me trying to use said garbage, failing multiple times, but eventually getting what I needed. So a few days into the project, after realizing that an old pasta sauce jar wasn't going to cut it, I thrifted this at the Goodwill for $1.99, and here I am adding some resin to the interior of the jar in order to give the effect that our creature has been respirating and thus creating some condensation on the inside. This was my reference. I'm going for lots of tiny little beads of water, and even though this was painstakingly long, I think it turned out pretty freaking cool. So I decided our specimen needs a little rock to sit on. I am putting some magnets inside of the clay and on the underside of him so that if I want to remove him from the rock for any reason, I have that ability. Now that he, she, they is complete, I think we can all agree that it needs a name. So I was hoping that you could help me narrow it down. Here are a few I'd like to throw into the hat, but feel free to comment your own. Eileen, Ocellus Rex, Eisenhower, I Richie, Thing 1, Thing 2, Chocolate Thunder, John Cena, Sue, and Bill Nye the Sentient Eye. And with that, we conclude another project. I have absolutely nothing negative to say about my little guy. He was fun. He took forever, but I really didn't feel super stressed or pressured. I even at one point dropped him and completely snapped off a couple of his little tentacles, and after sulking for like 10 seconds, I was back at it and I wasn't really that perturbed. So I think that this project went pretty smoothly, just a couple road bumps, and I'm really happy to have him on my shelf now for me to see. About once a month-ish, I kind of get this urge to create something and film it. So if that interests you, I think there's like a button down there that says submit to the dark forces.
It says subscribe.
Wait, that sounds better. So if you wanna, I do in fact hope that you enjoyed this video and that I'll see you in my next one. But for now, happy Halloween and take care of yourself. Yeah, I could see that being used against me in the future.